Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's quiz, the final installment of the series Management Reports 2025. So as long as you have attended 5 of the 6 webinars, after today's quiz is when you will receive your badge. Jack will be sending those out, not immediately, but they will be timescaled, usually before the end of the month. But we'll keep you updated along that journey. So again, hope you're having a good Thursday, and let's hope that this adds to it. So let's have a look at the housekeeping rules. Obviously, hopefully, well, you would have attended 5 of the last 6, so you'll know these rules, but let's go over them anyway. Your microphone muted automatically. So if you want to sing along to the radio, you absolutely can do. We're not going to hear you cough, sneeze, anything like that at all. Do not worry. No interruptions at our end. Also, there's no handout today because it's a quiz. So don't worry, nothing for you to download and look at, but you still do have the ability to send us questions. Me and Jackie will be answering these today. It's only going to be ourselves supporting, so please have patience with us if we are answering immediately. If we don't answer any of your questions today, we'll get them sorted via email. We'll catch up with you after the webinar. But anyway, today's all about a bit of fun and a bit of a knowledge test to see how well you've retained information over the last week or so. So what are we going to be covering in the quiz? First off, nominal records. Then we're going to have a look at chart of accounts, some questions there, management reports, age reports, and the business dashboard. Now, this is the second run of the quiz. Okay, so if you attended the first one and you just want to see, again, knowledge retention, if it's improved at all, brilliant, more power to you for doing that. It is a bit of fun though, you are marking your own questions. So don't worry, we're not going to be asking you to email or forward anything to us. So, taking part, it's obviously an opportunity to test the knowledge that you've gained. There's 5 rounds, one for each session of the badge, and again, results are not marked. Okay, you're in charge of your own markings, so be as honest as you can do. If you don't know something, then maybe just write it down and watch one of the pre-recorded webinars that we have, or re-watch the webinar where we actually gave the information out. They're available at sage.co.uk/webinars. You can always go there and have a mosey about. Now, it's going to be a poll scenario again. If you've been to a quiz before, you'll know this. I'm going to be asking questions and then giving a poll. You issue your response. Once around about 75% of the crowd have responded, is usually when I close the question off. We then have a look and see how you all have answered. Once I've gone through all the questions of a particular round, I then pass over to Jackie, and Jackie will be going through the answers and some demonstrations. And here's a bit of a tip. During those demonstrations, Jackie may accidentally be revealing some answers as well, so it's good to pay attention to those. Just having a bit of fun with Jackie there. So what we're going to be doing, it's handy if you write your answers down on a bit of paper or on a Word document, whatever you may be using, but also please answer in the poll, because that's when we know that the majority have answered as well, and that means I can move on to the next question for you. It usually takes around about an hour to get through the quiz, maybe a bit quicker, maybe a bit longer, but about an hour is what we schedule in. So hopefully we are all ready and steady to go. First round. Round 1, nominal records. Now, I hosted this one myself, this webinar, so hopefully we'll be getting 100% of the questions correct. If not, I may need to review my own slides. But let's go through question 1. It should be in front of you now. So which of these is not a type of nominal code? Which of these is not a type of nominal code? Is it a bank account, a nominal account, a control account, or a suspense account? So which is not a type of nominal code? And you should be able to see the poll any second now, and there we have it. Can be seen as a bit of a trick question, this one, which is not a type of nominal code. So if you think about where you would create nominal codes and what for, give you a good clue on that one. Okay, so we're at 86%. I'm going to close that question off. and we shall have a look and see where everybody went. So majority went to bank account, and then quite an even split over nominal control and suspense after that. Next question. What is the default chart of accounts range for sales? So what is the default chart of accounts range for sales? 2,000 to 2,299, 3,000 to 3,999, 4,000 to 4,999, 7,000 to 8,999. Now remember, this is default. You can design your own chart of accounts and nominal code structure, but this is what is out of the packet when you first get Sage 50. What is the default? If you do have different numbers in your software, you're having a look at it now, maybe contact the author of the chart of accounts or whoever designed the nominal code structure to find out maybe the reasons why it was designed the way it was. But again, we're referring to just the default. I'm going to close that question off, answered very quickly. Let's have a look where the majority went. So you can see the majority, 97%, went for 4,000 and 4,099. Very quickly answered question as well. Next question, and the final question of this round. Where can you go to check your control accounts? So where can you go to check your control accounts? Is it tools, control accounts? Is it settings, company preferences, parameters? Is it settings, control accounts, or view control accounts? Again, if you've got your software, it's an open book test. You can easily have a look. If you haven't, have a guess. Being answered again very quickly, this one. Very impressive. Superb. So around about half have answered this question. So if we get the answers in. Excellent. Brilliant. Reached that magic number of 75%. I'm going to close this question off now. And let's have a look where the majority went. So majority, settings, control accounts, and then quite an even spread over tools and settings, and view control accounts with 7%. And on that note, I'm going to hand over to Jackie, who's going to be going through the answers for you.
Okay, thank you there, Matt. Not quite a smooth transition there, sorry about that one. Okay, so yes, I'm just going to go through the answers to those sessions. What I will say first of all is it's great to see some of you come back from last week's quiz to join us again, maybe try and beat your scores. That's absolutely great to see you here. And it's interesting, a couple of you have mentioned the difference in the answers as well. So it's good that you have paid attention on this. So thank you very much for joining us. As Matt has mentioned, I do sometimes give away the answers by accident for upcoming questions. So yeah, please do listen carefully. You might get an answer for a question we've got in the next round there. I will try and avoid it where possible. Okay, so the first question we had was, which of these is not a type of nominal code? Okay, so I'm a bit notorious for putting some trick questions in there. So they are all types, these are all nominal codes. So a bank account nominal code is a nominal code, but we were thinking about the type of nominal code. So a suspense account is a nominal code, but it's not a type of nominal code. Okay, so when you create a nominal code, it's either a bank account, a control account, or just a general nominal account. So the correct one on there was in fact suspense, and we had quite a sort of across the range on there. So I think 31% of you said bank, then we had 23% across the other three there. So a bit of a broad range on there. On to question 2. So question 2, was what is the default range for chart of accounts? I was over the moon to see 97% of you got this right. So it is in fact the 4,000 to the 4,999 range. So to check your chart of accounts, we will just do a really quick demo on this one. Because you might be using a custom data set, which means yours might be slightly different. You can go into nominal codes, and in nominal codes, into chart of accounts, and within here, pick the one that you use most of the time. So I'm just going to go for the default, and then here you can check your ranges. So you can see on the profit and loss under sales, my range is 4,000 to 4,999. So yours might differ if you've got your own chart of accounts there. Okay, back to the slides there for the last question of the round, and that was where can you go to check your control accounts? Okay, so control accounts are those nominal codes that are responsible for some of the automatic postings in the software. So that can be found in settings and control accounts. It's a tricky one because this one here, settings, company preferences and parameters, is where a lot of the settings are held, but this one is actually in settings and then control accounts. So again, I'll just quickly show you where you need to go. Just close down on this one. So settings, control accounts. So if you ever need to check what your control account is for some of your functions in the software, you can see they're all listed here. Mine are all the default. Again, yours may differ slightly just depending on your nominal structure and how you use the software. And that's not to say that's incorrect either. Okay, so that takes us to round 2. So I'm going to pass you back to Matt and he'll take you through the next round of questions there.
Thank you ever so much, Jackie. We are. So yeah, very good round for everybody there. Like I say, some of the questions, it's just the wording of them, and maybe the way that I'm telling them, like my bad jokes, maybe the way that I tell them. But we'll head into round 2 now. Hopefully we'll get a bit of clarity. The first one is a picture round. So I'm going to load a picture onto your screen here. Hope you can all see that. So what does the term partial mean on the screen? So to the right there, that picture, chart of accounts, it's got partial in parentheses. What does that mean, that word partial? What's reflective of? I'm going to give you the answers now for the poll. So you'll be receiving those in about 20 seconds. One, does it mean that one of the ranges is enclosed within another range? Does it mean that ranges are overlapping onto each other? Does it mean nominal codes are not represented in the chart? Does it mean a nominal code has been used as part of one floating category, but not part of the equivalent floating category? Or does it mean any or all of the above? So the decision here is that one or all, really, of the answers that you've got in front of you. So is that one range is enclosed within another, ranges are overlapping, nominal codes are not represented, a code is one floating category, but not the equivalent, or any or all of the above. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I'm going to close off that question now. Superb. Let's have a look where the majority went. So majority went for any or all of the above, 56%, closely followed by nominal codes are not represented. Again, we'll have Jackie go through that one with you afterwards in the demonstration. Next question. So this one is a 50-50. If you don't know, it's worth a guess. So true or false? You can have multiple charts of accounts. True or false? I'm not going to go too much into this one because you may have seen the answer already. But again, 50-50 chance here. True or false? You can have multiple charts of accounts. Everybody's answering this one very quickly. Again, flying through. I'm going to close that question off now because genuinely the majority have answered fantastically fast. So let's have a look at where we went with that one. So the majority went for true, 91%, with 9% saying false on there. Next question. What is a floating category? So is it a category which can show on both the balance sheet and the profit and loss report? Is it a category which can be an asset or a liability, depending on a debit or credit balance? A group of nominal codes not included on a chart of accounts, or nominal codes causing errors in the chart of accounts? What could it be? What is a floating category? Again, you may not use this category in your day-to-day, but if you do, you should know the answer. Rapid response. If not, have a guess. Again, it's all a bit fun and you're marking your own work. It might be a knowledge gap. You might want to come back and revisit the chart of accounts webinar that we did. I'm very impressed with how quickly people are answering these questions, by the way. Shows confidence, like it. I'm going to close that question off now. We've hit the magic number. And let's see where the majority went with their answers. So the majority went with a category that can be an asset or a liability. And 10% went with a category on both the balance sheet and the profit and loss report. And on that note, let's hand over to Jackie to go through the answers.
Okay, sorry about the delay again there, just to get this switched over. All right, okay, so that's round 2. Thank you very much there, Matt. Okay, so the first question we asked was the picture round, and we asked you what the term partial meant. I knew there was a slide in the wrong place and I forgot to move it around. So what's the picture round? What does the term partial mean on the screen? So when you've got partial, it means that there are errors in your chart of accounts, and that could be for various reasons. So any or all of the above. So I will demonstrate that one. Let's pop into my data set here. So to check for errors, you can go into nominal codes, into your chart of accounts, and you can see that I've got 2 that are partial here. Okay, so that indicates to me that either a nominal code's been missed, or we might have a duplicated nominal code, so we might have a range that the code is showing in twice. We could have overlapping ranges, and sometimes you can have a range within a range. Okay, now to check this, I just go into edit and I'm going to click on check. Now this is going to give me quite a lengthy report. You might get a message to say there's no errors, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want to see. But you might find yourself in a situation like myself where you've got this one here. So run that to preview, and that will tell you all of the issues you have. Okay, now I've picked a blank chart of accounts. So as you can expect, it's telling me every single nominal code is not represented in the chart. Okay, so that's what will happen if you haven't added any to that chart of accounts. So if you want to check that, run the check and then resolve them. Okay, so it might be that you extend a range to include that nominal code in, or you might need to just make a new range for that nominal code on its own. Okay, we'll pop back to the slides. I'll just pop back a slide. So true or false, you can have multiple charts of accounts. Okay, so that is in fact true. So I've just shown you that in the demonstration. You may have caught that in the first demonstration for round 1. We've got multiple charts of accounts there. So yes, you can add as many as you want. You might want, when we get asked, why would I want to do that, is you might want one. Let's just get back to that screen. There we go. You might want one that's a high level one, like the default layout of accounts, and then you might want one which is much more detailed. Okay, so you can create as many as you like in here. Just make sure all of them represent all of your nominal codes. And then the final question for this round was, what is a floating category? So I think we got 84% of you got that one correct, which was in a category that can be an asset or a liability depending on a debit or a credit balance. And this is where I normally say, think about your bank account. Okay, if you've got money in the bank, it's an asset. If you're overdrawn, then that is actually a liability to your business. So we want them to be a floating category. We want them to show on both the assets or the liabilities depending on that figure. To check those again, I'll just go back into my chart of accounts. So I'm just going to go into the detailed one, pop into edit, and you need to be on the balance sheet and pop into current assets or liabilities, but you'll see an extra box appear for those floating accounts. And whatever is in your current assets also needs to be in your liabilities too. Okay, that takes us on to the next round. So that's going to be round 3 for you. So it's back across to Matt. I think this is the slightly longer one as well. So there's a few more questions to this one.
Thank you, Jackie. Yes, this is a slightly longer round for you all, so more for us to get our teeth into. And this round is round 3. Trial balance, profit and loss, and balance sheet. There we are. So let's go on with the first question. Firstly, number 1. Which of these reports uses the chart of accounts? And this is a multiple answer. Okay, multiple answer. So which of these reports uses the chart of accounts? Trial balance, profit and loss, balance sheet. So again, if you use this, maybe not on a daily basis, but if you use this frequently, should be common knowledge to you. But if not, multiple answers on this one. Have a guess at what you think would be there. So the trial balance, profit and loss, balance sheet. Remember, more than one. Some rapid answers again, which is always good. So it's a very interesting topic to cover, management reports, especially around these 3 management reports. A lot of information given, a lot of information to absorb. So you're doing well if you're scoring quite highly at the moment. I'm going to close this question off. Let's have a look and see where the majority went. As you can see, the majority, balance sheet, profit and loss, 95 and 96% in fact. High levels there, 47% for trial balance included as well. Next question. Hopefully you can see, does the profit and loss year to date include brought forward balances? 50-50 on this one. Or was it 50-50? Again, you might have your Sage 50 in front of you so you can quickly examine those details. If you haven't got time for that, you have an open 50, then you might just want to have a guess at it. So does the profit and loss year to date include brought forward balances? Say yes or no, this one. I'm guessing from the speed in which it's been answered, everybody's quite confident in their answers on this. And obviously these webinars help by Michael. So information easy to absorb when it's delivered with such excellence. And he is sat next to me. That's why I'm saying that. Okie dokie. So I'm going to close that question off now. And let's see where the majority went. Majority went with no, 76%, 24% with yes. So next question. It's quite a good one, this one. If you run a balance sheet from month 1 to month 12, would the balances in the period column and year-to-date column be equal? I'll leave this question up for a little bit longer so you can digest it there. So if you were to run a balance sheet from month 1 to month 12, would the balances in the period column and year-to-date column, would they be equal? Bit of a longer question, this one, so I'm going to allow you a little bit more time to answer it. So again, open book. If you wanted to quickly run one, if you've got that in demonstration data or even practice data, which I love, you may be able to quickly check on this. Again, that was it very speedily. Bit of a split on there. I'm going to close that question off now. We're going to have a look. Share the answers to this one. So as you can see, quite even, a dead heat. 53% say yes, 47% say no to that one. Again, we'll have Jackie go through that with you at the end of the round. Next question. Can you run a profit and loss for the next financial year? So can you run a profit and loss for the next financial year? Yes or no? If you don't run your P&L, again, I will keep repeating it. It's a bit of fun, a bit of a knowledge test. Have an educated guess if you think you can. If you do this on the regular, then you'll know the answer. So it's a quick question, this one. Can you run a profit and loss for the next financial year? Again, speedy responses. So much so that I'm already going to close off this question because the majority have answered. So we have a couple more seconds. Excellent. And I'm going to share the responses there. So 81% say yes, 19 no. Now we're going to go to the final question of this round. Final question of round 3. Are we ready? So a scenario question for you now. You lost your profit and loss report for last year. How can you get a copy? So if you've lost your profit and loss report for last year, how can you get a copy? Transactional profit and loss, be an archive, PDF copy, P&L brought forward, or store into practice company or a blank data set. Now this one is multi-choice. Pick all the correct answers you can on this one. More than one answer, most certainly on this one. So if you've lost your profit and loss report from last year, how would you get a copy? Which of these answers, more than one, plural, would you go to? Transactional profit and loss, an archive, a PDF copy, a profit and loss brought forward, or a store into practice company, or a blank data set? What could you do? So again, just a bit of a scenario question. You may have not have experienced this scenario before. So offhand, what would you think would be a quick solution? Excellent. Very impressed with the answers to this one. So when I share it, I'll tell you why. I'm going to close the question off because again, majority have answered that quite quickly. Couple more seconds. There we go. So 92% went with archive. Love that. And then we've got 61% transactional profit and loss, 66% restore into a practice company. And then obviously we've got 73% PDF copy, 25% P&L brought forward balance. So yeah, superb. Right then, over to Jackie for the answers.
Okay, thank you very much there, Matt. So that was the longest round. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, and a few sort of trick questions in there, just trying to get you to think sort of beyond what we're trying to get to, just trying to make you think a little bit outside the box. Okay, so the first one is, if it'll move on, which of these reports uses the chart of accounts? And it was multi-select because there was 2 answers there. Okay, so it was in fact the profit and loss and the balance sheet. Remember, you can access that by looking at the chart of accounts. Okay, so that's where you can tell. So the trial balance, although it's a management report, is just giving you a list of all of your nominal codes with their balance. It doesn't use the chart of accounts for that, but your profit and loss and your balance sheet do. Okay, the next one was, does the profit and loss year to date include brought forward balances? Okay, now for this one, 76% of you got the question right and said no. Because if you think about the profit and loss and how that works, the profit and loss should clear down at year end. Okay, so it really shouldn't be including any brought forward balances from the prior year at all. Okay. Okay, the next one. Now this is a tricky one and this always throws people, okay, but it was, if you run a balance sheet from month 1 to month 12, would the balances in the period column and the year-to-date column be equal? Okay, so again, it's a little bit like the previous question there. Think about how that report runs. So the profit and loss clears down at year end, but the balance sheet doesn't. Okay, so that's why if you were to run a balance sheet from month 1 to 12, the year-to-date column would be different, unless you were running it in your first ever year. So just to demonstrate that for you, pop onto my data set and come out of here. So I'm going to run a balance sheet for this particular data set. Just going to preview that so you can see it on the screen. So I'm going to run it for the full year. I'm just going to change my chart of accounts to one that I know is full, so we know that the chart of accounts isn't causing an issue. So we've got a default layout of accounts, month 1 to month 12. And when I generate that, you can see that in my period column, I've got a different value to my year-to-date column. Okay, so the year-to-date is including brought forward values from prior year. We can drill down further to have a look at that. So I can drill into here and I'm going to drill into the year-to-date. And what you should see when we look at the activity is we have a transaction from this year, which is what we saw in our period figure. But all of these other transactions are what's causing that difference, because they're brought forward from prior years, as you can see here. Okay. Pop back to the slides there. Okay, so can you run a profit and loss for the next financial year? Okay, so this is where there's a few different options here. Okay, so you can, but you can't use the standard profit and loss report unless you just run the future period. But that future period is just going to bunch together all of your figures into one future period. It's not going to give you a month by month breakdown. So really what we would suggest in this scenario is you could either use the transactional profit and loss report, which you can find if you're using Professional. Other options are you could take a backup of your data, restore that into another data set. So you might want to use your practice data or another blank data set if you have one available, run the year end and then run your reports. So just for reference purposes. So those are different options you've got there for accessing the profit and loss. But there is still options out there. Okay, so you can't use the standard one, but there are alternative options. And then the next one was multi-select. Okay, so you can give yourself a point for each one you've got right there. So you lost your profit and loss report for last year. How can you get a copy? So there's some obvious ones there. If you've got the PDF, great, you've got that there. But the one we're most happy to see is the archive. So the archive probably gives us the most questions over year-end webinars, okay? A tricky one to sort of get your head around, so it's great to see that you've used that as an option today. You can use the transactional profit and loss, and you could restore into your practice company or a blank data set. So remember, if you're restoring into practice company, that practice company is for reference only. So when you close your practice company, it doesn't retain the data, okay, but you would still have your backup there. P&L brought forward wouldn't work because you will have cleared down those profit and loss nominal codes at year end. And it's just gone so quickly. I can't believe we're on to round 4 already. So I'm going to pass you back to Matt. So try and do this as smoothly as possible. We'll pass you over there for round 4, halfway there.
Thank you, Jackie. Yeah, sometimes the transitions aren't easy, but Jackie's making it look seamless and smooth. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, so they were the answers for round 3. I'm just going to quickly jump through them here, and we're going to go through round 4 questions. Okay, so round 4 questions. Again, this is the penultimate round before round 5. So this could be the start of your arc of redemption, depending on your marking, or it could be a continuance of excellence, one of the two. But let's start with question 1. So what should you do to ensure all customers are included in your aged debtors report? Multi-selection, this one. So select all that apply. What should you do to ensure all customers are included in your aged debtors reports? I believe Michael went through this one in great detail as well, and he would have told you the answers. Of that, you can select the records that currently have a balance, remove any filters, include inactive records, or click clear to ensure no records are selected. So which ones would you have? What could you do to ensure all customers are included in your aged debtors reports? Everybody. So would you select the records that currently have a balance? Would you remove any filters, include inactive records, clear to ensure that no records in particular are selected? Deeply impressed with the answers in this one, much like the archive question. Impressed that 93 or 94% of you selected that one. Some very good answers to this one, which soothes our minds knowing that the information is being imparted correctly. Superb. I'm going to close this poll off now. Give you the last couple of seconds. Let's have a look and see where we went. So 92% remove any filters, 69% include inactive records, 82% click clear to ensure no records are selected, and 24% select records with a balance. Next question. So to retrospectively calculate your aged debtors, what should you do when running the report? Okay, so to retrospectively calculate your aged debtors, what should you do when running the report? Ensure you run the report for the correct period. Select the tick box to include future transactions, or select the tick box to exclude later payments. Multi-answer on this one. So again, more than one. To retrospectively calculate your aged debtors, what should you do when running the report? If you only picked one, what's the other one you think would accompany it, or is it all? Again, multi-choice, up to you. So to retrospectively calculate your aged debtors, what should you do when you're running the report? Ensure that you run the report for the correct period. Select the tick box to include future transactions. Select the tick box to exclude later payments. 81% answered. So I'm going to close this poll off now. Let's see where the majorities place their bets. So the majority went for ensure you run the report for the correct period, followed by select the tick box to exclude later payments. And then 11% for select the tick box to include future transactions. Again, Jackie's going to go through this one. Now, this next question, it's all about the wording. It's not a trick question. I'll read that as carefully as I possibly can do. It does require a bit of thought. So, when comparing the trial balance to the balance sheet, why would the debtors figure be different? So let's not think about the figure itself. Let's think about the report. So when comparing the trial balance to the balance sheet, those two reports, when comparing them, why would the debtors figure be different? Now, is it because the journals have been posted to the debtors control account? Is there errors in the chart of account? Or maybe a filter is being applied to the nominal list? So again, let's think more about comparing the two reports rather than the debtors figure. So when comparing the trial balance to the balance sheet, why would the debtors figure be different? Again, if you're viewing these reports on a daily basis, you might know this automatically. Again, don't be downhearted if you do get it incorrect. Again, it might just be one of those things we need to brush the knowledge up on. We can redo the webinars, you can re-watch the webinars. Have no fear, you're marking your own tests, remember. Again, the speed in which this has been answered is very good. So on that note, I am going to close this question off and we're going to go through the round 4 answers, but let's first see where the majority went. There we have it. So the majority went for journals have been posted to the debtors control account, 12% for errors in chart of accounts, and 60% a filter has been applied to the nominal list. And on that note, let's pop over to Jackie, who's going to go through the answers for you.
Okay, thank you. So just reshare the screen. There we go. Okay, so just bringing up some articles there to help with some of your questions. Okay, so the aged reconciliation reports. So the first question was, what should you do to ensure all customers are included? So first of all, we need to make sure you remove all filters, you include all of your customers, including the inactive records, and you click on clear just to make sure that no records are selected. Okay, so if you've got one record selected, it will run the report just for that customer. The next one was to retrospectively calculate your age debtors. What should you do when running the report? And I believe on this one, we got 92% of you said correct period and 91% of you said exclude later payments. So that is correct. So if we were running this report up to the end of February, for example, we want to know what was outstanding out at the end of February. We need to make sure that we run the report up to the end of Feb and also exclude later payments, because if that was paid in March and we ran it for today and didn't tick that box, then anything that was outstanding at the time wouldn't show. So it needs to be both of those. So again, just to demonstrate that on the age debtors, I'm going to go into my customers, into reports, again making sure before I go in that I've got no filters. So I think I've got a filter on this. I'm just going to pop into standard mode, make sure I've got all records showing, and into reports, age debtors. I'm just going to pick the first one. There's quite a few different layouts that you might like to take a look at. So I would pop in my data as of the end of February, and then I would tick this box here, and that would give me what was outstanding at the end of February only. Okay, now on to the next question. Okay, now this last week threw a curveball, and in hindsight, we've revisited it slightly. Okay, so if you were on last week's session and you think the answers are slightly different, I'm going to try and explain where it's gone wrong. Okay, and believe me, it threw me as well, which is why I've tried to readdress it, because I think it wasn't quite clear in the question. Okay, so when comparing the trial balance to the balance sheet, so they're two management reports, why would the debtors figure be different? Okay, now 73% of you and the majority of the people on the session last week went for the first one. Okay, and you're right in a way if you were comparing your trial balance or your balance sheet to your debtors control account. Okay, and I think that's where the confusion is, and I think that's what threw me. We're talking about the debtors control account, but afterwards I thought we're looking at two different reports. We're looking at the trial balance and the balance sheet. Okay, so the only thing that could cause a difference between those two is that I don't have codes on my chart of accounts, so that I've got the trial balance picking up all of my codes and my balance sheet is missing some. Now, the reason why most of you've probably gone for the first one there is this is a reason, I'm just going to go back one there, this is a reason why your trial balance wouldn't match with your debtors control account. Okay, so if you were comparing your trial balance with your aged debtors report, if you were to run your aged debtors report shows all of your customers and all of their outstanding balances. Now, if you'd posted a journal to your debtors control account, that would show on your trial balance, but it wouldn't show on the debtors control account because it's not relating to a customer. It's a journal transaction. Okay, so that's why this one here last week confused a lot of us, even me. I backtracked, and this week I wanted to try and make it clear we're actually looking at different reports. But I do know that Michael made it very clear that journals posted to the debtors control account can cause issues reconciling the aged debtors report with your trial balance, but not the balance sheet, which is what we're asking this time. So a tricky one to try and get across, but I hopefully that's answered why it's slightly different there. Okay, it's nearly time to end, so it's back to Matt for the final round there.
Thank you, Jackie. Yeah, a bit of a, not a trick question, just one of those questions that can catch you out. But as Jackie said, it was report versus report rather than considering the debtors control account. So well done to those who found it, but again, totally understandable why the 73% would have went for the first option. So have no fear. Now we are on to the final round. 4 questions to redeem or maybe succeed even further to what you've been doing so far. So let's begin. First question. What is the primary purpose of the business dashboard? What's the primary purpose of the business dashboard? We went through this yesterday with Abby, a very detailed webinar that she ran. So to manage customers' interactions, to provide key business data at a glance, to create invoices, or to track employee performance. So what's the primary purpose of the dashboard? Sometimes not used as often as it should or could be, the business dashboard. Very intuitive piece of software built into the Sage 50. If you haven't, go and have a look. Open up demonstration data, practice data, and have a look and see what it does. You'll be quite impressed, I think. I'm going to close that question now because I think the point was well made from Abby yesterday, with the majority, 100%, going for provide key business data at a glance. Is that going to be the right answer? Well, we shall find out. Next question. And this one, maybe you're new to Sage, so you may not know the answer, have a guess. But in which version was Business Dashboards introduced? Bit of a legacy question, this one. Is it version 28, version 27, version 28, version 29, or version 30? Again, if you know this, you know this. Especially if you've been using business dashboards, you'll know when it was introduced. But if not, just have a guess. Best guess. So version 27, 28, 29, or 30. First introduction. I'm quite impressed with the answers in this one as well, to be honest. Because it is mentioned in the webinar, but it's not often something people note or write down. I'm going to close that answer off. Let's have a look and see where the majority went. Majority went for version 28, 58%. V29 at 21, version 27 at 13, and version 30 with 8%. Again, not something that you're probably going to use every single day, but you know, it's a quiz question, worth a point. Next question. In which variant is Business Dashboards available? In which variant is Business Dashboards available? Essentials, Standard, Professional, all of the above. Again, with it being an open book test, one could open, let's say 50, and check and see if Business Dashboards is there on the module list on the left-hand side near the top underneath Home. Superb. We have 52% currently in. Excellent. Superb. So what variants is it available in? Will it be Essentials, Standard, Professional, or can everybody use Business Dashboards? I'm going to close this question off in just a few seconds. And let's see where the majority went. Superb. Majority 62%, all of the above, 35% Professional. Next and final question. It's a true or false. So you could use existing dashboard templates. True or false? You can use existing dashboard templates. Good question, this one. Good final question. Again, Business Dashboard, not used as often as it could be or should be, in my opinion. If that counts for anything. If you're not using it, have a glance. Some great ways to visually see your information and your business data on there. So you can use existing dashboard templates. True or false? A lot of answers in. I'm going to close this question off now. Let's have a look and see where we went. So the majority, 99% in fact, went for true and 1% went for false. And with that being said, I'm going to hand over the final time to Jackie to go through the answers, and personally just thank you for your attendance. You won't hear my voice again, but you're now back to Jackie. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Matt. Just going to try and get my screen to share. I think I just need Matt to close the poll down there and I'll be able to share. So this is the final round. Just trying to share there. Matt, if you're still there, if you just close the poll, that would be great. I'll see if I can get on there and apologies. Right, okay, that should let me share now. Thank you very much. Okay, final round was all about dashboards. So this should be the freshest in your memory if you joined us yesterday. So Abby went through the business dashboard, and the primary purpose is just to give you that key business data at a glance. So it's really high level information, but it enables you to take away what you need at a glance from your data. The next one was, in which version was Business Dashboards introduced? So that was in version 28. Okay, so it's been around for quite a while, but still hides away. Not everyone is using it, but it is a great feature. And the next one was, which variant? Okay, so this is good news for all. It is available in all variants, so Essential, Standard, and Professional. The final question was true or false. You can use existing dashboard templates. So I'll quickly demonstrate this one. So yes, you can create your own from scratch, but there are some templates here that bring together some of the widgets together. So if I selected Business Overview, for example, and create the selected dashboard, that pulls together widgets, which is what we call these, that are around business overview. Now you can go into a new dashboard, pop in your own dashboard name and create new and add those manually. Okay, so you don't have to use the templates, you can actually start from scratch if you wish to do so. So that brings us to the end of the quiz there. Okay, it's been an absolute pleasure the last couple of weeks there. Someone just saying they haven't got the business dashboards, so it might just be your access rights, but it is also only available if you're on a subscription basis with us as well, so maybe check that one out. Okay, so if you want to share your scores with us, we won't be naming and shaming or naming and sharing any of the scores, just really for interest to see how people are performing. It doesn't matter what your score was, as long as you've attended today, you've taken part, and you've also taken part in 5 of the other sessions, then you'll still be eligible for your badge. Okay, so we certainly won't hold any scores against you. So if you do want to share them, please do pop them into the chat there. Now, as mentioned earlier, we are doing the session again in May. Okay, so if you have missed any sessions, you've not quite got enough to get the badge just yet, then please do check out those sessions in early May. And we are also looking at doing a repeat badge in June. So we may be looking at doing something along the lines of the VAT badge again. So please do keep an eye on our webinars page. So with that in mind, I'm just going to go into our help center. I'm going to just type into the help center the word webinars, or you can go to sage.co.uk/webinars, and in here we've got our list of upcoming topics, and what we have are some great topics that tie in very nicely with our theme for this week. So we're going to be looking at, if I just scroll down a little bit further there, report design. Okay, what you can achieve from the software without actually making any changes. Okay, so that's our first session. Also, batch reporting. Year end ties in very nice with management reports too. So we've got lots of sessions next week that tie in with this. We are currently just getting the rest of May scheduled. And again, we've got loads of different sessions available for you. So please do get yourself registered. We really do hope we'll see you on our session soon. Okay, so some great scores coming through there. So again, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to see everyone wanting to share. And like I say, we hopefully have the badge out. I do just say the cutoff of the end of the month. So if you haven't heard from us by the 1st of May, then by all means give us a shout. But it should be well before then that we get those issued to you. Okay, so just want to say thank you to everyone on the team for the badge over the last couple of weeks. Thank you to Matt for co-hosting today, but thank you most of all to all of our customers who've been joining us on our sessions and who've been getting stuck in on these quizzes. So it's really really good to see. There's just a few comments in there. It's really nice to see. Great series. Someone giving a note to themselves not to change their mind at the last minute. I'm exactly the same, so okay, so thank you so much. We'll look to end the session there so you can have 2 minutes back just before you pop off to lunch there. So thank you so much again, everyone. Take care, and we'll hopefully see you on another session really soon. Bye for now.